Hello, everybody. This is Tom from the First, the Last, the Nerdom. Welcome back to my ongoing series of the Malazan Book of the Fallen book reactions. I started with the with the one that I did halfway through the series, and I've been doing them ever since. As I read them, it takes me about a month to read one of these doorstops of a book. They're bit chunky, so it takes me a little while. But yeah, so we're down to our last two in the main series, and man, things are picking up now. Coming off of Toll of the Hounds, if you watched my last video, you know how enthused I was about Toll of the Hounds. Really enjoyed that one. It was a return to the city that started it all in the first book, and a lot of the same characters we got to revisit once again in their hometown. And it was just, it was like a homecoming, and very enjoyable. Obviously, it's Malazan Book of the Fallen, so it's going to be a little bit of darkness along with the light. So yeah, you got that too. But that's why we love Steven Erikson's books. He takes it all seriously. It's a fantasy series, but it's a dark fantasy, much like a Game of Thrones. It's you know, it deals with the reality, even though it's a fantasy world. So now we're on Dust of Dreams. I did up my thumbnail like I normally do with AI. I know some people don't like AI, so please excuse it if you don't. I kind of based it off of this cover here. And if you know who's on the horse, you know, Talk the Younger. The cool thing was is as I was reading them, I know the covers are kind of simplistic on this run of the book. I know some of the others I've seen are a little bit more fanciful, or but yeah, these kind of take a single moment or a single image from the series. It kind of spotlights it. Some work better than others. Um, like the dog one, I was like, okay, yeah, there's a bunch of dogs, and, but yeah, I really enjoyed the Reaper Scales cover. Um, Toll of the Hounds was kind of plain to me for when I first saw it, but it kind of grew on me. I always liked Dust of Dreams and the Crippled God. I would look at those when I was reading back earlier in the series, going, "Well, who is this guy and who is this guy?" You know. So, but I'm not sure quite who this is yet. I know who this guy is now. The hint was there with the bow, but I don't know. Maybe I'm a little dense and didn't quite catch that. But yeah, so as I was reading this book, it's a hard book to review, and like I said, this is more of reaction, not a review. My feelings on the book is, coming off the high of Told the Hounds, we get into Dust of Dreams, and it's part one of a two-part book. He states, Steven Erikson, rightly so, states in the beginning of the book that this is just part one. That this doesn't end with a definitive ending. One of the things I love about the series is so far up till now, each book was a satisfying read from beginning to end. It didn't go at the end to be continued. You had a full story. You had characters that were, a lot of plot lines that weren't quite tied up yet. So you were like, okay, well, we'll get to those in the next book. But for all intents and purposes, it had a satisfying ending, and you had a prologue, your parts, and then you had an epilogue that kind of put a little bow on things, and made it a satisfying read. Like I said, you know, you, it's always good when you have that, and so you don't have it in this. And he kind of apologizes in the beginning of the book, saying, "Hey, this is a two-parter. You're not gonna get the ending. So yeah, he kind of relieved that blow early on, so you knew it was you were anticipating it. But these are big books. They're in these paperbacks I'm reading, it's 12, a little over 1,200 pages, and so you can't help but feel by the time you get to the end of this, um, even though I'm not reading this when they came out. I'm reading this afterwards when I can read them all at once at the pace that I want. Um, and I know, but when I finish this, I could pick up the next book and just continue on. Um, Even though that's the case, when you got to the last page, you goes, okay, all right, okay. And so it doesn't have that satisfying ending. It's sort of like watching Dune Part 1, the movie. By the time you get to the end of it, you really enjoyed the movie, but there's no ending. It's sort of like a to be continued, and you're kind of like, okay, and you really can't formulate your opinion over the whole of it because of that. You don't have the full picture yet. You don't know how what takes place in the first half is going to pay off in the second half. Obviously, famously, Empire Strikes Back is sort of like that with the follow up of Return of the Jedi. You're kind of like, okay, and everybody has their opinion on Return of the Jedi. Pros, cons. Some people don't like the Ewoks. I kind of fall in that camp. I won't get too much into that. I know in the previous videos I had a handful of recommendations. I don't have those this time around. I didn't have anything that really kind of inspired me as I was reading this book. I really kind of dived into it for itself. Now, at this point in the book or the series, you would think, okay, you've established all the characters. Let's go. Let's bring them all back in. Let's tell an epic story with all of them, and let's get going. That's not the case in this. The very beginning of the prologue, we're introduced to the snake, which is a group of kids, and you're like, okay, the kids suffering and crossing a wasteland, riddled with parasites, and they're not in a good way. Now I don't know about you. For the most part, kids in peril. It's sort of like a instinct, unless you're a psychopath killer that has no emotions. Seeing children in distress is always something that's going to kind of pull at you and kind of break you down just a little bit, even if they're fantasy kids. It's going to affect you, and so this book it's a necessary book to get to the crippled god, but the things that it covers aren't always pleasant, and um, I'm fascinated, especially by the snake. You're wondering how it's going to tie into the main story and everybody else that's involved in the story. He's not just introducing this at this such a late stage that it's not like he's just going off on a tangent. This is going to circle back and be impactful for the overall story, especially for the last two books. But you're really kind of wondering, okay, where's this going? And I was fascinated, but I was kind of repulsed by the situation that the kids were in. Just overall, the kids seemed to be in torment. None of them were truly happy. So there wasn't like the main core three or four characters that you are introduced to through this. There's they're they're kind of like kind of just filled with torment, so that there's not one that stands out to, oh, I like that guy, or that girl. It's not like that. You're just hoping for the best for these group of kids, but expecting the worst, because the way a lot of times his stories play out. Now, after we get through with that prologue, and throughout the book, we circle back to them. We're back in the Letherius, the Letheri and the Malazans. They're back in the city. Toll is the king with his queen. They're always great to see their interaction, and his manservant, who we now know is the god Mal. We've known it since the end of Midnight Tides. But it's fun to get back to them and seeing their interaction with Tavor. Tavor's requested that Fiddler read the cards. It's not just your average tarot card reading, or the cards of the dragon. Yeah, it's a little bit more vicious than your average tarot card reading. So, very very dramatic. There's some loss of lives. There's some hidden dragons coming out, destroying a building with the people. So yeah, you starts off with a bang. In other words, and one of my favorite characters that the series has is Bottles. I really enjoy that character. I don't know what it is. He just kind of draws me to him. But yeah, I enjoy that character. But yeah, we're just kind of setting up the stage. The Malazans, they're going to have to leave. They got to get out of there. They've got a mission. Tavor's got this vision. Now, one of the interesting things about the series is you occasionally get into the head of Tavor, the adjunct Tavor, but in the past few books, you're always being observing her from afar, never in her head, so you don't really know what's going on with her, and that's kind of interesting, in that you're like all the other characters. Is like, okay, what is her ultimate plan? Does she have a plan? Where is this all going? And they're going to be going across the wasteland now, with quest and whatnot. This is another big quest for them. Again, there's several different quests. There's several different people wanting different goals in this book, but none of the quests are appealing. Like the snake, that whole quest or journey, not really appealing. The quest of the the bone hunters, not really appealing. Just them wandering across this vast wasteland, and then we're introduced back to the. I always have trouble pronouncing this, and also my pronunciations are horrible. So yeah, you can laugh. It's okay. But the Kachin Chamal. Now they were introduced in previous books. Actually, does it say? Yeah. I guess they're mentioned in the Gardens of the Moon. But yeah, they're really kind of introduced in the third book, Memories of Ice. Now this is the Malazan fandom wiki. This is a great resource. I didn't start tapping it until this book. I was kind of holding off on reading anything extraneous because of spoilers. Spoilers. I did not want the spoilers. So yeah. But in this book, as I was reading it, we're circling back to characters that I had completely forgot. I was like, okay, I do not know who these people are, not in the slightest. And that this is, I think, the first time that I really kind of ran into that. Maybe occasionally on the previous books, but yeah, when it circled back to the characters who were very prominent in this book, that wasn't in the previous books, is Center and her sister Kissware. Again, I'm probably mispronouncing those names, but when they they first show up, they're not mentioned by names. They come to a prison to rescue them. I'm like, who are these again? I should know these people, I think. And then once he named them in the book, I quickly looked at the Wikipedia for them, looked it up, and like, oh, okay, that's who they are. And I circled back to that several times as I was reading this, because yeah, it just kind of helped me. It's like, oh, okay, I gotcha. I forgot about that. I don't have a photographic memory. I don't have a really good memory, and like I said, it takes me a month to read these. So within a month, if it happened in two books back or one book back, it's like, okay, yeah, I don't remember that. It's been a couple of months. I don't remember that. So these guys, the Kachane or the Chamal, they when they were introduced in Memories of Ice, these are my least liked things in the series. I don't know, lizards with blades on their forehands. I don't know. It just seems like what a kid would do. Like this will be cool. Lizards, sword hands. And I as I was reading, trying to make them cool in my head. These were the guys that I struggled with, and previously they weren't really prominent in the series, so I could just kind of overlook it, and it's like, okay, all right. And then again, probably my personal bias, and but yeah, I just don't know. My whole idea was, okay. This whole series is really realistic. I was trying to think how a species of lizards with swords on hands would survive. How are they living? And survive as a species like this. The swinging around their hands. There's probably a lot of accidental decapitation, self inflicted or otherwise. But yeah. But in this book, we're kind of introduced for the first time deeply into their world, and they're looking for their mortal sword and shield anvil. And they're looking in the humans. We finally found out why they were hanging out. A couple of them were hanging out with Red Mask. It was their failed attempt to look for the mortal sword and to find their shield anvil. But they're sitting out their Distraint, I think is how you pronounce it, and she's supposed to find these two individuals, which by the end of the book she does find them, and it's kind of surprising, but makes sense who they end up picking. But yeah, the whole you kind of get introduced to their world, how they think, their hierarchy. You kind of knew that the matron was the head lizard, so to speak, and yeah. At the same time, we're being introduced to these. There's a group of people that a couple of them from previous books that are traveling across the wasteland. You're kind of wondering how they got there, why they got there, how they met up. But like Texian, and then there's one character that turns out to be maybe Feather, but you're not quite sure. But by the end of it, you realize that it's all in Ikram's head, or that's how I read it. If you read it kind of differently, he's like the ghost, the unnamed ghost in this that's following them. But it turns out, like, I guess it was all in his head. They were the ghost, and he was the real person at the end. So that was kind of fascinating. So there's all these threads throughout the book that some pay off towards the end of this book, but will most likely pay off in the next book. So that was kind of interesting to see. But yeah. So and then about a book or two or parts into the book, we go into kind of a tribal warfare with the various tribes and across the plains. And I kind of got lost in all the characters. They're in tribes. I kind of keeping them separate in my head. I kept kind of having to flip back and go, okay, now who are these guys again? And not to say that it wasn't fascinating. I enjoyed all these characters that we're being introduced to, but again, we're being introduced to new characters, You're like, okay, well, I really want to get back to the Bone Hunters and the reborn Bridge Hunters with Hedge. But okay, let's dive into these people. And again, it's another tragic story where a lot of them get wiped out by uh, what the gods do. Draconis shows up and destroys them on the battlefield with his kind of dramatic return to life. And yeah, that's very very brutal. This book is brutal. I guess that's a good word to use for this. Sort of like if you're familiar with Metalocalypse and Death Clock, the lead singer likes to say brutal a lot. So yeah, this is a brutal book. I also think that yeah, I don't know, the like I said, the tribe part, very interesting. A lot of the people you're introduced to are then uh, killed off, and again, uh, the head of the white face, Borgost, the Amos. Talon Amos guy, Onus, he's returning back to life. You get to see him with his happy family, Hinta and the children, and oh man, that family gets destroyed, and he gets literally torn apart, and that was again brutal. What happens to his wife? Oh man, and you're even though she gets hobbled and gets tortured, you're kind of hoping that she survives it, that she gets gets her revenge. No, she gets destroyed as well. Luckily, the children survive in this book. They're led off by the the woman that's in tuned with the wolves, and along with a undead wolf and the undead Talk the Younger. That's kind of a fascinating dynamic there. But yeah, Onus, he gets destroyed, and then he comes back, and he's kind of turned away from where he wants to go off into the afterlife. But yeah, he kind of gathers up some of his Telemos bros and go on a rampage destruction. And oh my gosh, I don't see anything good coming from this. Also, we circle back again to the trade guild, the Trigal. I always enjoy when they show up. Although this time, their appearance is again brutal. We find the wreckage of this. We circle back. We first see the cartographer. He's found by the strange kind of band of people with the children, the undead wolf, and the I think her name's Sector. They find him, and then eventually find the rest of the guild. Again, completely almost devastated. A lot of people are dead or dying. Uh, it's this book is fascinating in that it's a lot of times it's not a joy to read, but it's a fascinating read. Again, Steven Erikson's very poetic with his words, and I'm always fascinated by how he describes things, how he chooses to go about it. This is sort of um, again, he doesn't sugarcoat anything in this book. Obviously, you really can't. But yeah, he does it in a way that is respectful, but also just kind of gets you in there and makes you feel things for these people, and the people that over the span of books you really get to know them and love them or hate them when they you know end up the way they do. It could be heartbreaking to see what happens to some of these characters, and some of them are your favorites, and there's you really get to know these characters There's not one where you're thinking, okay, well, I'll be happy when this guy's dead. I'm always kind of fascinated by all of them. Now, the one guy that kind of sticks in your craw a little bit was the god, the elder god Elant. He's kind of gathering up his elder god minions and are wanting to do something on their side of things. And some of those characters, I was like, okay, now who are those again? And I had to look them up here. But yeah, I again, this is a hard book. It's again a part one of a two-part full book, and again, it's not the happiest of books. Now, is everything gonna be rainbows and sunshine and the cripple god? Probably not. It's probably not gonna. But the thing about Steven Erikson, he doesn't like set everything up and takes it out exactly how you think he will. He always kind of throws a curveball. So I'm expecting curveballs. I kind of expect the unexpected. If you know, you know where I got that phrase from. You know what a fan I am of that. But yeah, you never know what he's gonna do. So that's always kind of it keeps you on your toes, and that's what I like in my books. So to find that in a fantasy series where they're notorious for kind of setting things up and playing things out the way you kind of picture they will, it's refreshing to see a different take on things. And again, the things I expected in Dust of Dreams didn't quite play out. Like again, I thought that they were gonna just bring in all the characters and tell out this epic story with all of them. But we got introduced to quite a few new characters, some new groups of people, different empires, different tribes. Always fascinating. It kind of colors out the rest of the palette. I think now with this final book, we're kind of set up. We may be introduced to a character or two, but I think this is all going to be kind of bringing everybody back home. My expectations for the Crippled God, I'm a little over about 150 pages into Crippled God, so I've kind of cracked the spine on this, so to speak, and enjoying it so far. But yeah, my expectation is to bring everybody back. Now, we've had so many characters over the whole 10 book series that are still alive, and some of them dead or undead that are still kicking around in these books. That I don't know if every character is going to have a satisfying ending. Now I know there's some other series. I know his friend Ian C. Esselmont created this world with him and wrote, I think, at least 10 books of his own so far, dealing with these various characters. And so, again, how I feel after reading The Crippled God, I may just automatically plunge into those books, or I may take a break. I don't know yet. I do have his first book that he wrote that's about 300 pages that I'll probably go ahead and read real quick after The Crippled God. Reading a 300-page book after these huge tomes is going to be probably like skating on air, getting through it. But yeah, it's it'll be interesting. But yeah, so I don't know if you're going to get like a satisfying ending for every single character, but I'm hoping for at least a satisfying ending to the series. That it'll give me something unexpected, something enjoyable. That I'll be able to come back here in about a month or so and tell you all about how much I love this. One of the things I looked at was on Goodreads and on Amazon, the stars, and this book, as I remember, it had like a complete all 5 stars and or close to it. So I think everybody's been happy with this final book. Again, I have not looked at spoilers. One of the things that I did bad last time was when I got into a series. I got into Dune, a series that I've been meaning to read for my whole life. I've been kind of circling back and reading those series or books that I've been putting off forever. I was like, I'm not getting any younger. I need to go ahead and read those books. So I started reading Dune, and at the same time, I was also, um, checking out different forums and groups and whatnot. And even though maybe the poster did not spoil something, people in their comments would just say something out and spoil something for me. So that series, I still enjoyed it, but yeah, there's some big major spoilers that I ran upon that I did not want, and kind of had to deal with within this. So with this series, it's like, okay, even though maybe on the surface it looks to be spoiler free. Nah, dog. I'm going to stay out of it until I read everything. So once I finish Crippled God, I'll start circling back and maybe checking out the. I'll definitely check out the Malazan group on Reddit, that subreddit, and kind of dive in deep and just kind of really kind of explore this whole world. It's one of those series that I could see that it will be with me for the rest of my life. I definitely once I'm finished with this 10th book, I'm not going to be like completely out. I'll want to go back and read like the prequels, the sequels, and Esselmont's books. I'm definitely not satisfied um, or satiated with this series, and that's kind of surprising. You would think after 10 books, you'd be done with it, but I'm not. I'm still continuously fascinated, and I think it's has to do with his ability to introduce new characters at the initially being kind of like, oh my gosh, are you really going to introduce new characters now? To having you fall in love with those characters, and they just become like, oh yeah, I love these people, and you want to know more about them, and so usually they go, okay. As I was reading this, some of my friends were like, okay, well, who are your favorite characters in this? I was like, oh man, do you have a moment, because I'm gonna have to set you down, and there's at least 20 of these people that I really enjoy. So, and that's not true with other series, but it's just such a huge story, huge epic scale. When you say epic fantasy, this is the series that's going to be what's my mind is going to think of, without a doubt. Love the series. So far, I'm going to wrap this up because I'm running out of words. I know as soon as I hit stop on the recorder, I'm going to think of something and I'm going to kick myself. It's like, oh, why did I not talk about that? But I'll save it for the next video. Until then, oh, and let's go ahead and do some plugging. If you aren't really uh, interested, you can nope out. But this is our channel here. As we load in real time, we're the first, the last Nerdom. We talk about everything nerdy, books, movies, comic books, anything. We love collecting various things. I think our upcoming video, we're going to talk to someone that likes to collect VHS tapes, my friend Chris, and so look forward to that. And but yeah, we talk about horror movies, fantasy movies, sci-fi. We talk about manga, anime, um, all sorts of things. And yeah, so if you like this video, give us a like, subscribe, and maybe check out some of our previous videos and see if there's anything else you like. Like I said, I've got some other Malazan book reactions. So if you like this one, check out the previous ones. And yeah, love having you with me. And we got one book to go. And then after that, we'll see if I'll continue the series with other books. I know Mike, my friend Mike, I've kind of infected him with this book series. He's going to be hopefully starting the first book soon. And so we may have a group discussion on that here shortly. Depends. We'll just kind of put a pin into that and circle back when the time's right. But yeah, This has been Tom, and see you next time.